What's going on, my babies? Welcome back to another episode of the Spiritual Word. Thanks for tuning in and tapping in. If you're new, I recommend subbing or following. If psychology, spirituality, self-help, science is something that you're interested in, that's what I mainly talk about. As always, I like to start these off with a disclaimer by stating that I apologize for any noises in the background in advance and anything of that nature. And also my second disclaimer by stating that these are for entertainment purposes only. Always do your own research to come to your own conclusions, to make your own decisions, to have your own answers, and I believe in your ability to be your own person and to do all of those things. So in today's episode, I want to talk about a dream that I had and how I get these dreams, just because I feel like I don't really talk about how I got these dreams. So I always go into my sleep states with an intention, because I feel like I'm like an old scientist in the 16th fucking century or in the 18th century who is experimenting and growing knowledge continuously. That's what I enjoy doing, so I continue to do that. And when I go to sleep, I set an intention. I go to sleep and I'm like, okay, tonight I want to dream about this, or tonight I want to talk to my guides, or tonight I want to get information that I didn't know I needed. And last night I had a dream, but it comes to me in a wave of understanding. I just understand whatever this information is. And last night I went into sleep with the intention that it was going to be for this episode. Last night when I went to sleep, I was like, okay, if I dream tonight, this is going to be my inspiration for the next video. So whatever information that I gather from my dreams or from my sleep state is going towards the podcast. So that's what I used that was my intention. So I went to sleep and I had this dream that I was with this other being, but this other being wasn't talking to me. It was like telepathy, but it wasn't like I was getting words or images. It was more of I got a wave of understanding. All this information just was pushed into me. Instead of not physically pushed into me, but I just understood it. Someone just flipped a switch or turned the light on in a dark room. And I was like, oh, I can see everything. And so I had this dream that basically I was understanding what causes and conditions are, which is weird to me because it's just a tiny piece of the puzzle, which I didn't really understand because I'm like, why do I need to know this little tiny piece? And when I looked at my timestamp, it was 234, which I was taking. Okay, so let me kind of backtrack a little bit. So like I said, I set intentions for pretty much everything. And during this point of my day, yesterday, not specifically this point, but yesterday, I was watching this show. And I was like, okay, you know what? I just had this random thought. I was like, okay, I've been saying 1, 2, 3 a lot the past couple years, but if I'm on the right track, I want to start saying 2, 3, 4 to know that whatever I'm doing is actually starting to build. I'm starting to get traction and it's actually building up. And I want to go through, basically in my mind, I'm like, let me go through 1 through 10. And right now, when I looked at this shit again, it was 3, 2, 1. So I digress. So I was like, I'm going from 1, 2, 3, and now I want to go to 2, 3, 4. And then after 2, 3, 4, I'll go to 3, 4, 5. And then 4, 5, 6. And then 5, 6, 7. Basically, so on until I get to 10. And when I get to 10, I know that, I've already at all the things that I want to be at. I already got my manifestations, I already got all this shit, I already got, whatever the fuck I'm trying to manifest, whatever is going on in my life. So, when I started saying that, or when I said that, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna trip, I'm not gonna look for those numbers, it's not something that's gonna be something that's really relative to my experience. I'm not gonna trip if I don't see those numbers, and I'm not gonna trip if, I see that number, but it's backwards, So then I went to sleep with the intention that whatever I dream about is going to be the next information that I, expose on my podcast, or that's going to be the next thing, or that's going to be my inspired action to take. And I'm like, okay, cool. And so I go to sleep, have a dream about causes and conditions, and it's this information that's just put into me. I just know it, I just understand it. I don't know how. I've never heard anybody talk about this. I did read a book about karma, which does talk about causes and conditions, but it talks about it very, very faintly and very loosely, and it's not a definitive thing. It doesn't go into detail about causes and conditions. It just says, oh, this is a cause and condition to this. And you can take, context clues to whatever you're learning. Like if you're learning a different language, you can take context clues from whatever the case is. Like if I know what this word means, I can usually use that to substitute for the other word. Like if I didn't know what expertise meant, but it's in a sentence, I could usually use the sentence to get the answer from that one. So that's what I mean by that. So I was in this dream, and this entity just kind of like put this. I don't like to say entity. I feel like it was my guides. Like I feel like I created my guides, and my guides are the ones that are feeding me this information. So they put this information into me, and basically what I gathered was that like everything is pretty intertwined with everything, like naturally. And when I'm looking at the clock, I can't. Like I can't. It's 3:33. It's 3:33 in the afternoon right now. So I was thinking about the causes and conditions, and this is what I wanted to talk about in the next podcast. So I was like, okay, how do I make this clear and concise? Because I understand this information, but how is it relevant to other people? Like, how is it? There's a butterfly going by. How is this relevant to other people? Like, how am I able to translate this? And I was like, oh, okay. I kind of understood through what I like to call like just I don't like to call it anything. It's more like just thinking, like just thinking about this information until I'm able to put it into words. And I was thinking about this and making little videos on my TikTok, which if you don't know my TikTok, it's UG underscore Dauntless, like the movie Divergent. So I was thinking about this and thinking about this and making videos on this, and I was like, oh, this is so fun. Like, so fucking fun. And I was thinking about my purpose and blah, 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 but digress, because I don't need to be going on tangents right now. So basically, causes and conditions are what needs to be met in order for like something to occur. Like, for example, the causes and conditions to you getting your driver's license is you being able to practice driving or to practice the written test, right? In order for you to get your license, if you have to do the written one still, you have to study for that one in order to pass that. And sometimes you don't even need to study, you just have to know the knowledge, or you just have to have the knowledge, and that is the cause and condition that will allow you to pass the class. So the cause and conditions are like the things I need to meet in order for this thing to work out. And it's kind of like the causes and conditions to a happy relationship are you meeting somebody who you know you're compatible with, and someone you know will want to work with you just as much as you want to work with them. The causes and conditions that will be specifically right for each other. It's kind of like if you want to have a good day at the beach, the causes and conditions are that the weather is really nice and that you get there early so you get a good spot. And it's like those certain causes and conditions. It's kind of like contracts that you have to sign in order to do, whatever the fuck you want to do. Like, there's causes and conditions to everything. So there's a condition for everything, but there's also a cause that needs to occur. So that's what causes and conditions are. And then I continued to just think about this, and for some reason I thought about devotion like a lot. I was like, okay, like, why am I thinking about this? Like, who cares about devotion? Like, it doesn't really matter like that. And then I realized that if you're devoted to something, it means that you're gonna do that thing because you love to do that thing. And it's a cause of a condition. Like, it's a condition of a cause. So everything has its causes and its conditions, and it's just like another piece to the puzzle. Like, it's just another thing to add to the puzzle to get it to like be fuller than it was before. And so basically, it's weird because you can't really describe one without the other. It's kind of like if I was describing the world to you, or like if you were an alien and I was trying to describe Earth to you, and I was like, oh yeah, Earth is like cool, like sometimes it's hot, depends where you are, it could be cold, but sometimes even in the cold places it can be hot, and you're just like, I don't fucking get what you mean. Like, what are you trying to explain? Like, is it hot or is it cold? And you're like, well, it's both. Because, if we didn't have the cold, we wouldn't know what the hot is. So we wouldn't be able to describe what the heat is to you. And they're like, well, do you calculate the temperature? And you're like, well, yeah, we do, but sometimes it's under, 0, and sometimes it's over 100. And so they're like, okay, so is it hot or cold? And you're like, I can't explain that to you. So it's both. Your causes and conditions and devotion are two things that go together. And I didn't really understand that until like I was sitting here thinking about causes and conditions, because then I just started rambling about devotion. And I was like, okay, like what does devotion have to do with this? And devotion is just another piece of the puzzle. Like, for example, devotion is what you love. You devote your time to what you love. You devote your time to whatever. You devote your love to your partner. You devote your work to work, you know? You devote your attention to details. It's your love / awareness. It's your love and awareness in one thing, because you're consciously using your awareness to do something for the outcome. That is the cause and condition, right? And so it's basically like, if I love to play basketball, my causes and conditions are met with my devotion, because if I don't love to do that thing, why the fuck am I going to go out my way to do that thing? I wouldn't, because I don't love it. Because devotion plays a huge part in causes and conditions. It's kind of like when people are like, oh, you need love because, love is what makes you want to do the things you do. Like if you love hair, nails, makeup, you probably love, to do those things. And maybe it drives you into being a beautician. Or maybe you just like making people feel good about themselves. And you think that makeup helps you feel good, so why not help another person by doing their makeup? Or doing their hair? Or helping them have a little confidence boost by doing their nails? You know what I mean? So it's just the same thing. Or if you're somebody who loves, I don't know, your family, and you had like a really tragic thing happen to one of your family members, and you're like, I want to be a doctor. Because I remember as a kid, this thing happened to me, and that wasn't fun, and I hope that nobody else has to go through that, so I want to help other people. Is that your devotion is the cause that meets the conditions, and vice versa. The causes and conditions are what meets devotion to you. So it's all the same thing, it's all intertwined, and that's why I talk about that. And basically, it's just like what do you need to do in order for this thing to work out for you? And like, for example, let me talk about another cause and condition. If I'm filming in my car, the causes and conditions to me filming in the car is, being able to open the car. Like, it's that simple. It's me being able to be warm in the car if I need to be warm, or if it's really cold, because supposedly we're going to get an Arctic blast, So it's dependent on all these circumstances. It's dependent on the situation. It's kind of like when people are like, oh, do you like to do this? And you're like, it depends on how I'm feeling. That's the cause and conditions. If people are like, oh, are you an introvert or extrovert? And you're like, well, it depends on the circumstances. Causes and conditions will meet you. You will mesh with the causes and conditions, and it'll create or produce an outcome. Whether or not you produce the outcome is up to you. And whether or not you actually go through with the outcome, also up to you. So it's basically just that thing. Like, you have to decide the causes and conditions, and you have to know what the correct causes and conditions are. Like, for example, if I've met this girl at work, and she was talking about how she wanted to be famous on TikTok, and she was posting all the time, and that she gets a pretty decent amount of views because she's pretty, and she's funny, and she does all these crazy things and these goofy things. And then she was like, the causes and conditions of me not ever having to work a job. She didn't say causes and conditions, but she's like, in order for me to not work another job, all I have to do is battle 5 people in one day for 5 days. And I will make enough money to support myself for a month. And I'm like, that's somebody who knows what the fuck it's gonna take. And that's somebody who could be successful because they know what it takes to be successful. They know the exact number of things they gotta do. They know exactly what they need to do. They know exactly how to get there. Maybe it doesn't happen as quickly as they would like, but they also have the patience to do that thing. And that is the cause and conditions for a motherfucking successful ass person. And then, me seeing that, I was like, holy shit, she knows what she wants. That's fucking boss energy. Her energy is already in a boss mode. That's the causes and conditions to how to get people to like you. They want to be like you. That's how people like you. Because they want to be like you, or they want to be around you, or they're captivated by your energy to a point where they're like, wow, that person got their shit together. And so from her having her shit together and her knowing the direct causes and conditions to her success, I was like, holy shit, this fucking clicks for me. Like, I was like, you know, that's incredible. Like, the fact that you know how many times you have to battle somebody on TikTok in order for you to get a decent amount of pay, or to get the pay that you desire. How do you even know that? Like, how do you even calculate that? And she was like, oh, it's easy. You just, like, multiply this amount of likes and multiply by this and divide by this. And I'm like, the fuck? I'm like, how do you even know that? Like, that's crazy. And the fact that she knows that blew my mind. It blew my mind to a point where I was like, you're going to be successful. As long as you keep pushing, as long as you keep that mentality, as long as you keep that drive and motivation, that's a successful bitch. Right fucking there. And we support the boss bitches because, duh. You know what I mean? Like, girls gotta support girls. So, and that was just like a mind-blowing moment for me because I was like, fuck. I was like, I need to have her drive, her motivation. Like, I need to be like this, you know? And that was inspiring for me. And I was like, yeah, I like you. I like you. And those are the causes and conditions that she needs in order to succeed. And that to me was fucking epic. I was like, holy shit, you know? And then when I was having that dream of the causes and conditions, I was like, oh my god. I just gotta figure this shit out. And not figure it out for the sake of figuring out, but figure it out for the sake that, like, that's how I know it's gonna work for me. And where the fuck did I put my chapstick? And I find that to be fucking epic and amazing. And it was just another step stool to, like, this spiritual shit. Because I'm like, oh, I always want to be growing and evolving. So I use my sleep as a way to do that. And as a way to, like, kind of get in touch with whatever the fuck is teaching me. You know? Like, my guides. I like to say it's my guides. So, yeah, I'm in this here just because you get this, you know? And if you don't, then I'll probably explain it in another episode somewhere in the future. So, you know, it won't be long because I like to repeat this shit. So, with that being said, thanks for tuning in and tapping into the spiritual word. I upload Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Mountain Time. And if spirituality, psychology, self-help, science is something that you're interested in, I recommend subbing or following whatever platform you're on. This podcast goes up on all podcast platforms, and it also goes up on YouTube, a video version of this. So if that's something that you're interested in, you know, go ahead and sub or follow. And I would greatly appreciate if you did. Obviously, you don't fucking have to. This is not something that you are going to be reoccurring in. But anyways, I also have a Discord if you want to kind of chat and ask me questions, or if, you know, getting into, what's it called? Getting into a community with me, if that's something you're interested in, then my Instagram will be in the descriptions of both of these things. So yeah, with that being said, thanks for tuning in and tapping in, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.